We've been discussing the Spurs' new schedule for the 2022-23 season, but what do fans have to say about the new slate?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kids 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hey, happy Monday. Hopefully we can get your work week on the right foot as we discuss your San Antonio Spurs and the schedule. Yeah. In other words, it's that slow of an offseason. We got to stretch this schedule chat a lot longer than maybe you may like. But this is going to be fun, though, because we've already discussed this on Locked On Spurs, but we haven't heard what the fans have to say. So we have another fan episode today. Fans are going to be weighing in on the new schedule. What do they feel about Austin being given the last home games, quote unquote, of the season? What about the Alamodome? That's going to be a big game, and much, much more. Who is representing the fan base? A fan favorite of fan episodes. That's a mouthful. He is Zach Escamilla, or today he is Shooter McGavin, according to the conference call name right now. Zach, welcome back to Locked On Spurs. Props to you, man. You get a lot of applause every time you come on Locked On Spurs.
I guess I'm a fan of the fans, or a fans fan.
You're a fans fan. Like there's a man's man. You're a fans fan. But glad to have you back. How you been? It's been a while since you've been on Locked On Spurs.
Just busy, man. Work, home life, all that good stuff. Keeping up with the Joneses. Not Jerry Jones, but
Don't do things he may do.
Nope.
Remember those old photos of him and those ladies?
Well, in that case, maybe I would have wanted to be Jerry. Single Zach would have been, not anymore.
Not anymore, but he is Zach Escamilla. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at GetBackZach. Do it today. And we'll be talking a lot more about that and much, much more. Zach, the Spurs schedule is out. We've been talking about that on Locked On Spurs, but we haven't heard the fan side of things. And I think the big highlight of the season, we'll talk about this in the first segment right now, is the fact that the Dome is back, at least for one season, as the Spurs celebrate their 50th anniversary in San Antonio. They're going to reopen the Alamodome, let the Spurs fans back in to party like it is the 1990s in the Dome. As of right now, the blue curtain is up in the air because they want to pack the Dome. The Spurs are looking to break the NBA attendance record. They're going to shoot for 65,000 plus. So that seems to be the highlight of the game, of the schedule so far. But Zach, do you believe Spurs fans will pack the Dome?
I think there's a really good chance. Normally, I would say yes. You would think it would be a slam dunk. Hey, it's the Spurs, the Alamodome, keeping it. Budo, let's go. Let's get your nostalgia, your big plate of nostalgia fed to you in one night. Normally, I'd say yes, but because of the uncertainty of this roster and what this season is going to look like, if it ends up being a rough season with these young guys, it really just depends on how the team is doing. I hate to say it, but as much as Spurs fans want to say we love our Spurs, I think we definitely do have some front-running fans that only show up when they're winning. So we'll see. I mean, if the team is good, then yeah, they definitely have I'd say more than a 90% chance to pack the Dome. But the team isn't that good, which it's looking like they may not be very good. I mean, it'll be a good turnout, but packed at capacity, I just can't commit to that.
Even though it's a game, perhaps the biggest home game on the schedule in town, they're going to be, in the Alamodome. You think that's going to be enough draw for Spurs fans to pack the Dome, or is that too lofty for San Antonio Spurs to be even thinking that fans are going to come out? Because last season, Zach, we saw that fan turnout was kind of at the AT&T.
I mean, exactly. It was kind of meh. And, even when the team was doing great, I feel like we weren't consistently selling out. So to me, it's a chore. It's not impossible. I, for one, will try to make it my business to be there. If all things line up, It's in my schedule. I'm going to be there. Even if the team is winless at that point, I will be there because I have very fond memories of being at the Alamodome, and it would be really nice and nostalgic to go back and experience that. Maybe take my kids with me. Be like, hey, this is where your dad used to watch Spurs games. Take my wife with me that wasn't a Spurs fan until she met me. So to just have that opportunity, I think would be cool. And I really hope that other fans feel the same, that they look at this as an opportunity to step back into the past, take a ride in the time machine, if you will, and go back to 1995 and
Right.
relive that experience of being in the Alamodome. So I think
What do you expect? What would you like to see? Oh,
no,
oh,
Jeff. I just
honestly,
said
I
I
thought
think
you were
that
done
I
there.
just
But
think
what
that
do you want to
they have
see?
to jump on it. What do I want to see in what, Jeff? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. What do you want to see as far as nostalgia at the Alamo Dome? What do you think Spurs fans would want to or appreciate the Spurs to do as far as just nostalgia purposes for that big game?
You know what I would like to see, and I guarantee no one else is probably going to feel this way, but most fans are probably going to want to see the old logo on the court. The old Fiesta colored logo with the Alamo
Mhm.
Dome. And that would be cool. And I would be shocked if they don't do that. But you know what I would like to see, Jeff? Obviously, they can't play any games at Hemisphere because it's destroyed, it's gone. But to pay homage
Right. Yeah.
to Hemisphere Arena, I think it would be really cool if they brought out the floorboards from Hemisphere Arena and put it in the Alamo Dome. That red, white, and blue. I think that would be really
Oh
cool
yeah.
to kind of have the best of both worlds. That would be something I would want to see, but I know I'm probably in the minority, and maybe it's just because I'm going to be 35. I still remember the Hemisphere Arena. Some of these kids
Hmm.
listening probably they're like, "What the heck is that?" They're barely going
Yeah.
to
What's a
remember the
Hemisphere
Alamo
Arena?
Dome. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
probably not going to remember the Alamo Dome, much less Hemisphere Arena. But to me, I think that would be really cool. I think there's one other thing that I remember about the Alamo Dome that I think was really cool. That I think us old folks would like to see again, and I think would be cool for the younger fans to see. Remember when they had it was just Iceman and Johnny Moore and Silas with retired jerseys, and they had those
Hmm.
massive murals of them in the background that were very colorful.
Yep.
I always thought those were really neat. That would be cool to see those again.
They were like portrait retired jerseys, I believe.
Yeah, it just the art looked really cool, if I recall. I just maybe I'm going crazy, but wasn't there something like that?
No, you're right. No, it was on the blue curtain. All the retired players at that time had massive portraits that were like sewn on to that curtain. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that should be back. We know that the '99 team will likely be back for a reunion. I think that'll be awesome to see. Overall, I hope they bring back the old graphics that they used to play at Hemisphere Arena and at the Alamo Dome. I would love to see well, we know they're going to be wearing a Fiesta jersey. That's obvious. But interesting enough, it'll be the first time a Spurs literally on court in game Fiesta jersey will be worn because kids don't remember this or they don't know about this. Spurs never had a Fiesta jersey in the 90s when the Fiesta colors were trotted out. It never existed. There was a Fiesta warm-ups, so there were just never Fiesta jerseys. So it'll be cool to make that type of history
Mhm.
in the Alamo Dome. But all in all, it's going to be a great, great, great game. I think it's going to be fun. I personally think that the fans will pack the dome. I think they will break the record. Crossing fingers, Zach. I really want that to happen. One of those
Oh, me too.
shining,
Absolutely.
yeah, it'll be one of those little shining moments in a bad season because Vegas has the Spurs winning about 24 games next year. So something
Yep.
to look forward to, Zach. I think Spurs fans will definitely look forward to that. I think they all are. I have Spurs fans already telling me, like, how do we get tickets for that game? When the sales going to go on? Well, they're not going on for quite a while. But yeah, I think that is perhaps the biggest game on the home schedule. And speaking of home schedule, we're not done talking about that. When we get back, we're going to ask Zach his thoughts and the fans' thoughts on Austin getting very specific games next season. Not necessarily the teams, but where they are slated at. We're going to be talking about that and a lot more. If you keep saying you need a budget but never do, if somehow you keep missing your credit card payments, if you're afraid to look at your bank statements, then it's time for you to take back control of your financial life. Meet Rocket Money, formerly Truebill, our favorite financial app. So why did Truebill change its name to Rocket Money? Well, let me tell you what I've heard. Truebill, now backed by Rocket Companies, has grown from a bill management app into a full-on personal finance empowerment tool that helps over 3.4 million people with budgeting, lowering bills, canceling subscriptions, and more, saving each of their members on average $700 a year. And with all that growth comes the next evolution in Truebill's story, a new name. Bottom line, Rocket Money is everything I've loved about Truebill, but with a fresh look and feel. Start canceling your unused subscriptions and save money at rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. Managing your money is exhausting. Notebooks full of account details, calendars full of payments, inboxes full of bills, spreadsheets full of calculations. Even if one of these sounds familiar, it's time to take back control of your financial life with Rocket Money. We're back with Zach Escamilla right here on Locked On Spurs, or this fan episode of Locked On Spurs. We're discussing the Spurs schedule with the fan base. Make sure to follow Zach on Twitter at GetBackZach. Zach, Austin got 2 games. A lot of Spurs fans were already mumbling and grumbling about that. They didn't like that, but it is what it is. So the schedule gets released, Zach, and the teams are announced: Portland and Minnesota. They're going to be going to Austin at the Moody Center. Fine. It's not like it's the Warriors or DeJounte's Hawks coming back. Okay, fine. Get yourself the Minnesota teams and Portland teams, Austin. But it's where those teams, or their games, I should say, are given to Austin. They are the last 2 quote-unquote home games of the season. They're not going to be played in the AT&T Center. The last home games are in Austin. Zach, do you have an issue with that? Do you think fans have an issue with that?
I don't have an issue with it personally. I actually think that's kind of smart, having the last 2 home games in Austin, simply because if you are a season ticket holder, that gives you time to prepare, saying, well, that's 2 less games that I'm not going to be attending, but it's at the end of the year anyways. Chances are, if this team is going to be as bad as folks say they are, I mean, the Spurs may just be, mailing it in at that point. So, if Austin wants to, see those last 2 games, I mean, they can have them. I'm okay with it. I don't have any issues. Now, the whole Spurs maybe going to Austin thing, not to open up that can of worms, but I still think that's a real possibility depending on the direction of this team over the next couple of years. But again, I'll save that conversation for another day. But in terms of Austin getting the last 2, Jeff, it's whatever, man.
Are Spurs fans still having that in the back of their head as far as Austin being the threat, or has that calmed down with the constant push of no, it's just marketing to a bigger population?
That depends on who you ask. I mean, if you ask some fans out there, they're going to call folks like me and others doomsday fans because we believe that Austin is a threat. They're going to say, hey, there's a $1 million center being built near UTSA, and there's no way the Spurs are going to leave. It's just a marketing push. They're going to Mexico. Mexico going to take the Spurs. They're going to throw out things like that. And fine, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to tell folks how they should feel, but when I'm seeing all of this stuff on Instagram and, self-promoting the heck out of Josh Primo and Austin on the pedicabs, I'm thinking, man, I'm seeing more Spurs promotion around the Austin area than I am the San Antonio area. So that's where I'm a little confused. I'm thinking, one thing about adding to the brand, but Austin? I mean, I've never really met any Spurs fans in Austin. It's a UT Longhorn town. So I don't know. Maybe it is just a big marketing push. Maybe I am paranoid. But at this point, you're going to have both sides of the aisle. You're going to have the folks that are concerned, and then you have the other folks that are like, hey, you guys are just paranoid. Stop, with the drama. So you got both factions.
Yeah, well, those Austin games will be late in the season, towards the end of the season to close it out. But it's going to be interesting to see if maybe that starts percolating as those games get around to it. I could definitely see Spurs fans mumbling when it gets closer to that, saying, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. We're not getting the last home games. They are? I think the Spurs should have stapled on those two Austin games either before the rodeo road trip or after. Just staple it in there, put them there. They're already away, knock them out, give the city of San Antonio, the last home games at the AT&T Center. Yeah, a lot more to discuss here on this episode of Locked On Spurs. We're with Zach Escamilla. He is repping the fan base on this fan episode of Locked On Spurs. When we get back, we're going to be looking at the overall schedule now. How do Spurs fans feel about it? The numbers are out. The data is out. The Spurs strength of schedule. Yikes. If you're team tank, then you're loving this. We're going to be talking about that and a lot more. We're back with Zach Escamilla right here on Locked On Spurs, and he is repping the fan base on this fan episode. Follow him on Twitter at GetBackZach. Zach, let's go ahead and look at the overall schedule now. The numbers are out. The data is out. The Spurs strength of schedule alone have the second toughest schedule in the league, right behind Oklahoma City. They have the seventh most back-to-back set of games for the upcoming season. They have they own one of the NBA schedules. How can I say this? They're one of the teams that has a schedule that reflects less rest time than their opponent. So the data is showing that the Spurs are going to have a rough season. Team Tank must be loving this, huh?
Probably. I mean, to me, Jeff, I don't really put a whole lot of stock into the schedule because at the end of the day, you're still going to play, those teams, you're going to play all, 20, 28, 29 teams, at least twice.
Right.
To me, it doesn't really matter when you play them. I mean, you're going to have to play them at some point. So, I mean, in terms of the whole back-to-back issue, yeah, I mean, I think that's where it can hurt. Like if, one night you're playing the Warriors and the second game of the back-to-back is the Dallas Mavericks, having to go from, Steph Curry to Luka Doncic, instances like that. Yeah. I can see where people will be like, come on, NBA, really? But for me, whether you're team tank or your team, you play to win the game, it's not really that big a deal to me. I never look at the schedule and say, oh, yikes. I look at it like, okay, there's some games.
Yeah. Do fans, do you think fans will be going to the AT&T Center this season?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll at least be there for 10 games. I purchased a little, modest season ticket package. So I'll be, putting my fandom and money where my mouth is by showing up, regardless of whether they stink or they're competitive. So I can speak for myself. I mean, yeah, you're still going to have people go to the games, Jeff. But I mean, if recent years have shown us anything, the attendance has been poor. I mean, we haven't been. I mean, even if you don't go to the games, if you're watching on, Bally Sports, the lower bowl is empty. I remember watching when the Spurs were beating up on the bad teams back in the good old days. Those bad teams, some of those arenas were pretty empty. Like I remember, I don't know why I remember this specifically, but I remember like when they were playing the Hawks in like the early 2000s when the Hawks were really bad. I just remember always seeing those empty seats in their arena thinking, I don't know what that feels like. But now watching the Spurs games now, I'm like, oh, this kind of looks how it did when the Spurs were playing the Hawks way back when.
Right.
So, I mean, people like to support winners, and sometimes and tickets aren't always affordable. And fans, they look at these games as well. Yeah, it's entertainment, but you want to support a winning team too. So for people to spend their hard-earned money on a product on the court that isn't what you're used to, I think that's why you're seeing the decline in attendance. When the Spurs were contending, yeah, I'll spend $200 on a ticket because I know I'm going to go see Manu, Tim, and Tony Parker, and they're going to play, Dirk Nowitzki, whoever back in the day. It was just it was an easier pill to swallow. It was easier to make that investment in going to the games when you knew it was going to be fun and competitive. Whereas now we're in that really weird situation of a rebuild that folks aren't used to, and they're a little scared to spend their money on a product that's not really a finished product, if that makes sense.
I'm assuming the fans will pack the AT&T Center for DeJounte's return. You going to be going to that? Yeah, you think that's going to be another big highlight game to go to for fans?
Yeah, and of course, you're going to have those games like that where there's a big name to come in. The Lakers are always a big draw, whether LeBron or anyone is on the team. It's just we have a lot of Lakers fans here in San Antonio. I hate it. Most Spurs fans hate that, but it is what it is. So there are going to be some teams that come to town where the AT&T Center is going to be packed. But I'm talking about those games, Jeff, against the Pacers, the Timberwolves, those type of teams are fans going to really want to spend their money to go see the Spurs play teams without big stars. I mean, unless people really are excited about Anthony Edwards. No disrespect to the Timberwolves. He's a great player, but he's not like a household name yet. So unless there's a household name, there's going to be some games that are kind of sad, I think, attendance wise. Right. Maybe on the court wise as well, but definitely from an attendance perspective.
Are there any other games you think Spurs fans are looking forward to that we haven't covered here? You mentioned the usual suspects, the Lakers. We know DeJounte's Hawks game is going to get a lot of attention.
I think the Celtics. The Celtics, okay, go ahead. Derek White and Danilo Gallinari. I mean, what he did for the Spurs this offseason. I'm just kidding.
I was wondering where you're going with this.
Yeah, so technically 2 former Spurs, right, on the Celtics. So maybe that that game in January when they play the Celtics, maybe they'll be there for that. Maybe the Clippers game, you're still going to have people that want to go boo Kawhi. Yeah. I'm sure we'll see that. Of course, folks probably want to go see Giannis, so I can see
the Bucks. Ja Morant.
Yeah, the Grizzlies I could see. Yeah. But, teams like the Nuggets, not the Nuggets. Yeah, people won't want to see Joker. I'm talking like the Magic, the Thunder, the Rockets, Pacers. Those are the teams where it's going to be a toss-up. Are people going to be interested in that?
Yeah, I would think Zion is up there too with the Pelicans, his return as well. So,
yeah,
but it's so interesting, right? Remember the days of you're going to go to the Spurs game, you're going to go to see the Spurs. Now we're going to go to see who's coming to San Antonio. I mean, it's just like it was back in the day. Remember, it was, you're going to the next Spurs game because Jordan's in town at the Hemisphere, where Magic and the Lakers are in town. Because the Spurs back in the day were terrible. It wasn't until Robinson came aboard, then things changed. Hopefully that will change as well for the Spurs as they're looking for their franchise type player. And yeah, it just feels like a lot of games that are circled with fans are more reunion type games. DeJounte, Derek, Kawhi, DeMar with the Bulls, versus you're going to go to the games to see the Spurs. Now, there are some Spurs fans that are diehard. They'll go to see Jeremy Sohan and Keldon and Vassell and Blake Wesley. And if he's still around, Jakob Poeltl. But yeah, it's going to be a long, long season. But hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. Zach represented the fan base. Did he get everything right? Everything he missed? Zach, let them know how they can chat with you.
You can chat with me at GetBackZach on Twitter. Or if you want to text me, you can text me at 8675309.
Oh, my goodness. Don't do it, everybody. Don't fall for it. He's setting you up. Now, you can dial it, and you'll probably hear some great music. But don't do that. But definitely call. Call it. Enjoy some 80s music. All right, go for it. Have fun. And you can let Zach know how you feel on Twitter, as he just told you. Make sure to follow Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes. The list goes on and on. Now on YouTube, the Kins 5 Plus app, and the Kins 5 YouTube landing page, their page as well. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. For your second listen, check out Locked On NBA. Everything you need about the NBA in just 30 minutes. Before I let you go, Zach, have you checked out She-Hulk yet?
I did, and I got to tell you, I went in with no expectations, like none at all, and I didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. I was entertained. If you got, like I said, I'll give it a couple more episodes and see where it goes. But there were some things that I did like, and it's what a 35-minute episode. Yeah. If you like the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo's in it. Has more of a comedy vibe. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I just want to know where we're going with this. There's no defined villain, in the Daredevil back in the day, the Netflix ones. The
villain is PMS. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, she practically says that in one episode with her cousin, saying about how women need to get angry, or how she needs to get angry. She goes, well, all women are angry. But
yeah, I joked with my wife, because she was watching it with me, and I said, it would be terrifying if my wife had the powers of She-Hulk. I'm terrified already, but if she had that, I'd really be in a lot of trouble.
Well, then you could take her down. You could say, I defeated a She-Hulk. You do that, Zach. But he is Zach Escamilla, and we'd want to thank him for hopping on this fan episode of Locked On Spurs. So for Zach Shooter McGavin Escamilla, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.